Okay, away we go on this Friday edition. Mr. Irrelevant, Alex Strouf, Joshy DiMaggio, Will Sommers, hanging with you on this Friday ahead of a fun weekend and a really fun couple of weeks in sports. It's March, baby, and we will talk about a little bit about college basketball later as we get ready for the end of the regular season for a lot of conferences and the start of conference tournament for some other conferences that kick up this weekend and into next week, including the Big Ten, which wraps up their regular season tomorrow. Wisconsin plays at Purdue. Josh, are you in March mode yet? Are you in college basketball mode? Not close. Do you just only get in when the tournament starts?
Yeah, I'll pay a little attention conference tournament time.
So next week.
Yeah, but I haven't done nearly enough. I've watched the Badgers, and that's about it.
We are 9 days away from Selection Sunday, so you better get cracking. We're into the single digits.
Nobody crams for the test like I do.
Is that how you were growing up?
Yes. Well, I mainly just didn't study, period.
Because you were so smart. You were so mentally.
I either knew it or I put such little effort that I knew it wasn't going to go well.
Well, do you think Josh, more than anybody you've ever met in your life, brings up in like a nonchalant way just how smart he is in subtle ways?
No, I think you're just fixated on how smart you think he is. I don't think he really brings it up all that much.
Because if you were to actually have let me expound on that, me graduating high school came down to my final exam.
What was your GPA?
Unbelievably low. I just didn't participate in school for much of it. So it's not like I was just acing things in a 4.0 student. It was I competing? Was I even trying?
I'm beginning to think the studio is beginning to smell a lot like you did in high school. You smelling what I'm smelling?
No.
It smells like, for lack of a better term, yeah. I was going to say a skunk may have snuck through. Will, you getting that drift back there?
No, but I don't get the comparison of the smell to him in high school.
Well, he was saying I was smoking pot, not doing homework.
That's exactly what I was
That was the insinuation.
That seems like a strong accusation.
A very strong accusation.
I bet it's totally incorrect.
See, the reason
too.
I didn't get it is because I thought that, and I thought Strouf would never do that. That's crossing the line.
That's unbelievable.
But he did. What else is...
No, if you want to, I don't know if the anime convention that's happening, and there's with all the tails that I've seen.
A lot of tails,
cat ears, and costumes. I don't know if the anime people are big pop people.
Dr. Denver Dan says he brings it up all the time. Even using big words is just bringing it up.
That's just something.
That's little brain stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Will doesn't relate.
I don't bring it up.
I believe it was 1 year ago this week when Josh moved full-time into the studio, and I realized very quickly that him in the studio may have been a bad choice because it was during an anime convention.
That was furry.
Was it furry?
Yeah,
okay.
Furry was the one that really.
Wait, this one's different?
Yeah,
Yes.
so there's a little bit of crossover between anime and furries, but like dressing up in costumes and
social
tails.
Social ineptitude.
Josh.
Things of that nature.
Josh, come on. That's unnecessary.
There probably is less crossover than you'd think. I'm sure there is crossover. But these people are into like the anime cartoons, manga, comic books.
Why do you have a New Year's hat in your hand?
I don't know.
Put it down.
But this is why I wanted you guys to be interviewing the furries and the anime, because I have a level of understanding.
Josh, but again, I offered and Will said he was busy.
Well, yeah, you guys
busy.
No heart. No heart.
Don't say
heart.
you guys.
No heart. You could have gone out there by yourself. I've seen you do plenty of things by yourself.
I'm actually surprised you don't want to go because you'd be in the spotlight.
Yeah, you'd be the coolest guy at the anime convention.
Yeah. Look at this jacked fella.
He's ripped. I heard he can bench 75 pounds.
I thought this was the show where I got support.
Yeah. I'm supporting you.
I just said you were
strongest
jacked.
guy at the manga convention.
You sent us a picture. You had a vein popping yesterday. You sent it.
But this is why I wanted you guys to go, because I know you guys have next to no understanding of those worlds.
It's close to that, yeah.
Yeah. And it'd be funnier seeing you guys try to parse it out than me, who would probably get too mean because I know too much and I could make references and then they'd know I was picking on them.
Well, the difference between me and Will is...
You're nicer than me, yes.
Well, no. Between me and Will. The difference between me and Will is I wouldn't go in with I'm I'm going to make fun of you, Brian.
Well,
or Will would. Will's very judgmental. He's a very judgmental person.
Yeah, but I wouldn't do it on purpose.
Do you agree with the assumption that you're, or not assumption, but more so the claim that you're a judgmental person?
Yeah, I don't like most people.
Yeah, it's the way to be.
You're spending too much time with Josh.
Mm-hmm. No, I've always been like that.
That's why we were kindred spirits.
Dr. Denver Dan says, ew, gross, Strouf. No veiny pics, Brett Favre. Come on, Dr. Dan. No, I sent it as a joke because I believe it was on Wednesday's show. Josh said, well, the first time you have a vein pop, you're going to be showing us that sucker. I had one pop a little bit in my wrist, which is not abnormal. That was what I sent them a picture of. It was weird looking, though. I'll give you that. All right, well, this will be an easy transition. Former Packers president and CEO Bob Harlan has passed away at the age of 89, as announced by his family yesterday. In Green Bay, obviously served for a long, long time as the Packers president and CEO and effectively saved that franchise. When he took over, they were losing. They weren't making the playoffs. For 24 years prior to his arrival, they had only had 4 winning seasons and made the playoffs twice in the 24 years prior to his arrival in Green Bay. And obviously, he turned this sucker around. He hired Ron Wolf and gave him full football control. Wolf then hired Holmgren and traded for Brett Favre and acquired Reggie White and led them to a Super Bowl win in 1997. Before Harlan's time came to an end, he hired Ted Thompson, who obviously won them a Super Bowl as a general manager. So unbelievable tenure as the president of the Green Bay Packers. And what we can tell just leaves an unbelievable legacy. There's a plaza outside of Lambeau Field named after Bob Harlan because of his contributions. I thought the story over at ESPN.com, Joshy, by Rob Domofsky, that kind of dove into some of his different contributions that maybe you forget. But one I remember growing up with, and I guess I never really, because I'm 27, so I'm young. Mark Murphy took over in 08, so I was 10 years old or 9 years old or 10 years old when Mark Murphy took over. But I do remember the sales tax thing. Rather than 5% sales tax, everything was 5.5% for a lot of my childhood. And it ended when I was working in retail, so it lasted for years and years. But all that money went to stadium renovations at Lambeau Field and obviously has made Lambeau Field back into the mecca of the football world that it is. But in Domofsky's story at ESPN.com, it tells the story of how Harlan was campaigning. He'd spend all day going to factories and different places of work with a lot of employees to try to rally people to vote for the sales tax that would help contribute to Lambeau Field's renovations. And it was a story I guess I didn't really realize how much he did for that. But the vote passed, I believe it was in 2001 or so, 53% to 47%. So without his efforts, I don't know that Lambeau Field is what it is now. I don't know if the Packers are what they are now. And it was just kind of an insight into the business savvy man, but also the hard worker and the pleasant man that Bob Harlan was. And obviously it's such an impact on what the Packers are today as he passes away yesterday at the age of 89. Joshy, any thoughts? You're a little bit older than me, so you may have more recollections of Harlan's time as team president and CEO, but any thoughts on Bob Harlan?
Everything you think fondly of the Green Bay Packers in its current iteration is because of Bob Harlan. The Green Bay Packers franchise would likely not exist had Bob Harlan not done all he did to keep the Packers there, to get the sales tax, go door to door, literally, in the community, go into bars, go visit factories, go visit restaurants. Every single place he could be found, Bob Harlan was personally there trying to get that approved. It's the most unique venue in all of professional sports in America, and a lot of it is because of Bob Harlan, if not the vast majority of it. He would never want that credit, but that is where the vast majority of the credit is due. And beyond all the great things that, when I get frustrated with the current iteration of the Packers and the Mark Murphy version into Ed Policy, what I'm hearkening back to is the era of Bob Harlan, how they truly treated fans as if they were so important. I believe today someone was telling a story on Wilde and Tausch about how after the Packers won the Super Bowl, he was crying while being interviewed. And he wasn't crying because, oh, we did it. He was crying because how happy he was for the fans who paid a little extra tax to keep the Packers there, and now they got their Super Bowl, the thing that they've been wanting for so long. Mm-hmm. And the community aspect, the family aspect, all of that was a standard that Bob Harlan had set. Beyond that, Bob Harlan was the person who changed the Packers from the doldrums and the sort of endless misery that was a Packers fan for a long time. He hired football people to do football stuff, and he hired business people to do business stuff. He ended, effectively, trades, contract extensions, and free agent signings having to go through the board. Bob Harlan was the one who said, we're going to let Ron Wolf do what Ron Wolf does, and the business people and the money people, they're not going to have any say into that. Yep. And that was the first step into making the Green Bay Packers what they are as now one of the country's most consistently successful sports franchises, and 2 Super Bowls, and being in the playoffs as often as they are, 4 losing seasons, I believe, in his tenure, maybe a couple more when he first ended up taking over. But all that is because of Bob Harlan. The reason Reggie White was here, the reason Brett Favre was here, Aaron Rodgers, all of that you can point back to Bob Harlan. I never got to meet him, nor did I get to see him speak often. I'm not as young as you, but I was not nearly sentient enough to understand the same way I did Mark Murphy's speaking. I think all of us who are Packers fan, I have to be eternally grateful for him and the way he ran the Green Bay Packers. And I think this could be a good reminder to Ed Policy to, not that we know a lot about him, but be a little bit more like Bob Harlan. And I think that would be good for the fans and good for the Green Bay Packers just as a franchise.
It's well said. Marquette University alum as well, Bob Harlan. One more story, and then we'll move on to some of the news going on in the NFL. I think it was Wildy's article over at channel3000.com. And if I could make one recommendation, if you haven't done this already since the passing of Bob Harlan, do a little reading on him. Read some of the local beat writers that have been there a long time, like Jason and Rob Domofsky and Tom Silverstein, who had the privilege of covering him, because all of the stories that they tell have been really interesting and fun to read as you reflect on a life well lived by Bob Harlan, who passed away yesterday at the age of 89. But in Wildy's story, it talks about how Harlan, who's from Des Moines, Iowa originally, but went to Marquette, went to a game with his wife of almost 67 years at the time, who was his girlfriend, Madeline, at County Stadium here in Milwaukee. And he said to her at that game, I hope to be good enough to be in charge of public relations with the Packers someday. And boy, did he ascend past that. Longtime president and CEO from 1989 to 2006. So rest in peace, Bob Harlan. Obviously such a key character in what the Green Bay Packers are now. All right, let's get to NFL news, because there's been so much as we approach free agency. The legal tampering period begins Monday. So the next time we talk to you, legal tampering will be almost open, I believe, in the NFL. And then Wednesday when we talk to you, will be right before teams can officially agree to contracts with players. So I would just say this, fellas, be ready to record a specialty podcast-only episode next Thursday to react to the news or lack thereof 24 hours after the fact for the Green Bay Packers in the Mr. Relevant feed, because free agency officially opens when teams can sign players a couple hours after we're off the air on Wednesday. What are you shaking your head at?
Just how you're setting yourself up for inevitable frustration. You can see it coming. We know the Packers likely won't be there, and you're going to be then upset that they aren't in the first wave again.
It's not that I would be upset necessarily, Josh. It's more,
you were already teasing. I'm getting sick of why haven't they done stuff with Rashan Gary and Elton Jenkins yet?
Yeah, well, so that's why I want to bring up some of the news that's going on around the league, because other teams are making these tough decisions, right? Like, as we've been on the air, the Lions have released left tackle Taylor Decker, who's obviously been with the Lions for 10 years. He's an all-pro guy, really, really good left tackle. And, of course, Chicago is in the market for a left tackle. Ben Johnson is their head coach. That could certainly be a 1 or 2 year marriage if Decker wants to reunite with his former offensive coordinator. And I'm not necessarily giving the Bears credit, but I will say for a team that won a playoff game this year and exceeded expectations, they are not waiting, right? They trade DJ Moore to Buffalo with a 5th-round pick in exchange for a 2nd-round pick. They are already looking. They hosted Tyler Biadasz on a visit after their center retired.
Got some breaking news.
That might not actually be true. I saw reporting that meeting never actually happened.
Well, there you go. I can't be frustrated anymore because we have breaking news first reported by Ian Rappaport. Packers edge Rashan Gary has posted his goodbye message to the team. Rashan Gary is out of Green Bay. That is breaking news here on Mr. Irrelevant. Rashan Gary is officially out of Green Bay according to his statement. It's what we've been waiting for. Look, it's unfortunately a failed experiment because it was a guy I think early on in his career you had faith would finally take that next step and really evolve into one of the best edge rushers in professional football. And he was paid like one of the best edge rushers in professional football, but you never got the output that you wanted from Rashan Gary. So it was an expected move, obviously, from a cap casualty perspective, but it's another disappointment in terms of a Goody draft pick that didn't really evolve into what you expected. That's why you go out and trade for a Micah Parsons last year. But now that begs the question, Joshy, and I'll get your reaction on the news. We've kind of been waiting to fall down as it finally does here, as Rashan Gary is out of Green Bay, posting a goodbye message. I'm disappointed it didn't work, but this was the right move both from a cap perspective, but also from a new defensive coordinator, new scheme. Let's get some fresh bodies in there, and now we will see what they do as free agency quickly approaches.
Yeah, I think this is long overdue for Rashan Gary. We had former players questioning his effort level. We saw the production dip. We saw the Packers need him at what was the most important moment of the season after Micah Parsons went down, and he failed to produce in any meaningful way. I think Rashan Gary is by no means a bust in terms of an NFL player or a first-round draft pick by Brian Gutekunst. I think he was good enough at times, and he was productive and on the field enough type player. But I do think the contract extension he got after the ACL was a big mistake, and one that led us to the exact point we are now, because he was played to be a premier pass rusher, and the guy never had double-digit sacks in any single given season. The interesting part for us to now figure out is he given a post-June 1 designation, and they're going to try to save that extra money?
You would think so.
You would think so. Because he was the one to announce it, I don't think we have the terms of that and won't know that. Either way, the Packers are saving at at least like $11 to $12 million, even if he's released today. And then if they do the post-June 1 designation, he's given the ability the Packers are given the ability to save even more money. It does bring to the forefront now the importance of the edge position. Micah Parsons won't be starting the season with the team. You have Lucas Van Ness, you have Baron Sorrell, but Kingsley Enagbare is also most likely on his way out due to get a good contract. So there is a little bit to figure out there. How will the Packers try and fill those spots, especially with reinforcements not coming until after the season has already begun? And it's hard to bank on. I mean, I know Micah Parsons has talked about how good recovery is going, but until you get out there, until you start stressing it, until you start really putting in the work, it's hard to know exactly when he'll be ready. And when you're paid as much as Micah Parsons, you're going to err on the side of caution.
Yeah, you want him in January more than you want him in October, right? So we will see on that, and we'll talk about what comes next now. As it seems like finally, as you right before that news came down, we're alluding to my frustration with the lack of moves as we get ready. We're just a couple of days.
Am I glad I didn't go into my "this is what the Packers do"? They're going to drag this out,
which you were going to do. Yes. I know we had that on the sheet today.
Saved by the clock.
So I just want to read Rashan Gary's statement to Green Bay, which is how we're finding out about this, and then we can kind of talk about what we think is next for Green Bay as we prepare for free agency. Legal tampering period begins Monday. Rashan Gary's statement reads, "Green Bay, when I got the call in 2019, it was one of the greatest moments of my life, and it always will be. The opportunity to represent Green Bay and Packers Nation across the country and around the world is something I will never forget." Oh, boy. But like all chapters in life, this one has come to an end. I want to thank everyone who supported me and my family throughout the years. The love, the energy, and the memories mean more than words can explain. Joshy, get ready for this. Rashan Bain Gary's statement ends with this. "On to my next stop. Nowhere near done yet. all 6'5", 275. Can't wait.
I'm gonna elect to be nice here about Rashan Gary because you never feel great when somebody loses their job. I do think he'll
be fine.
Quite a few suitors, but you never like to see somebody be put out on their butt. It is funny that we're not talking about his amount of sacks he's had or the amount of pressures or any of that. He's mentioning his size.
Which is 2 pounds lighter than what he's listed at, so maybe getting a little lighter.
Maybe got a little cut this offseason.
Shedding a couple pounds.
His endurance is going to be better.
I think that's also indicative of what was Rashan Gary's time here in Green Bay. It was all about the size, speed, and measurables, and never about the production. He didn't produce at a high level at Michigan. He came to Green Bay and, given all the opportunity, I think fell short every single season here. Never reaching double-digit sacks. Like, compare a guy like T.J. Watt to somebody like Rashan Gary, and it's worlds different. And that, to me, is the biggest lasting memory I'm going to have of Rashan Gary is all this hype, all the physical gift and ability, and never any of the production. By no means a bad player until his end, probably his final season when he was jogging with the quarterback still the ball in his hands. But up until that point, he never really detracted much from the team. He just never quite lived up to his contract that was given him by Goody. And I do think that is the strongest thing I have to say about the Rashan Gary era. That second contract never panned out in the way it was expected to.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It was ultimately a disappointing tenure in Green Bay. And like every bad experiment, eventually it got to pull the plug. And it was painfully obvious this offseason that this was the right decision to move on from Rashan Gary and try to, at least to a point, reconstruct their edge rushers. Obviously, Kingsley Enagbare is a free agent. We'll see if this frees up some cap space in order to bring him back, if that's a route they want to go. Micah Parsons, as you mentioned earlier, Josh, he won't be ready for the start of the season more than likely. So we will see. But this was the right move because you talk about the lack of production the second half of the season. The final 10 games, he had no sacks, no tackles for losses. And then, on top of that, when you're watching critical moments of football games and he's clearly jogging, not sprinting to finish a play, that's an effort issue. And an effort issue is different than he had a bad matchup against this offensive lineman. You're not giving full effort, and you are the 15th highest paid edge rusher in all of football. When Micah Parsons goes out, you should still be able to make plays, get sacks, get behind the line of scrimmage, wreak havoc, create chaos. And he was never able to do that, especially once Micah Parsons went down in mid-December. So this is over. A change of scenery can be good for players, and it certainly might be for Rashan Gary. He's a physical freak. That's why he was so highly touted coming out of high school and out of college, and that's why the Packers drafted him early in the first round of the 2019 NFL draft, because physically he looks like he can be a beast.
What's his height and weight again?
It just never panned out. Yeah, his height and weight, if you're curious, is listed in his goodbye. 6'5", 275, 2 pounds less than he's listed, as Will pointed out. Let's get to some of your comments on YouTube. ESPN Milwaukee, ESPN Madison, as we react to the news. Rashan Gary out of Green Bay after being drafted in 2019, signed that massive second contract a few years ago, and it just never worked to the level in which you had hoped. Christian chimes in and says, Gary was terrible. Glad he's gone. Jamie from Orlando says, bye-bye, Gary. He quit on chasing guys. Dr. Denver Dan says, my lasting memory of Rashan Gary will be him jogging after quarterbacks. And then Jamie from Orlando, probably with the most central, grounded take on this. He wasn't terrible. He just wasn't worth what he got paid. He's maybe a B player at his best, but he was paid as an A player. And that's probably the truth, right? He's a 7.5 sack guy this year. The production completely fell off after that win in Pittsburgh towards the end of the month of October. Did not have a sack in November, December, or January. And when you are a top 15 paid edge rusher in the league, the Packers were the only team in the NFL this season to have two guys in the top 20 at the same position in terms of annual average annual value, and you just can't produce. It's probably time to try something else. And now I'm curious on what's next for the Packers. Obviously, they want to give more opportunity to Lucas Van Ness. Whether he's earned it or not is a different conversation. But I assume that's a guy they want on the field more and expect on the field more here in 2026.
You know what Van Ness is going to offer every single play?
Effort.
Undying effort.
And that's something we certainly, the TV screen doesn't lie, man. Tape doesn't lie. Rashan Gary quit on plays. And that was a really disappointing part towards the end of the season, where it happened more than once, where I think, Josh, you and I were watching games together, and we go, what is he doing? He's jogging.
It happened in the Bears playoff
game. Right.
He was within like 5 yards of Caleb Williams, who had rolled out to the right side of the screen and the right sideline there, and he hadn't thrown the ball yet, and Rashan Gary had just fully powered down, which, if you get a quarterback in that sort of spot where they're vulnerable and they can't necessarily see what's behind them, that's time to go make a play. That's time to get a hand on the ball, throw them off, or make them feel the pressure. And he elected not to do that. And I do think that what we heard from Micah Parsons when he talked about lack of effort and the people not dying to get to the ball and not trying to outrun him, I don't think that was meant at anybody else on the field other than Rashan Gary. And when you have your not only the most important player on the defense, but one of the most important players on all of the Packers, saying that, it's hard for that to then be fixed. Clearly, he had thoughts about the effort given by some of his teammates. The most obvious one was the one we could all pick out that wasn't giving the proper amount of effort. And that, to me, that was the end of Rashan Gary's time in Green Bay. He did it. I mean, he's partially to blame. You never want to target guy that way, but that's just the result.
We don't have the exact details of what the release is. I see some questions coming in on this, but I can tell you this.
We actually do.
Oh, go ahead.
Matt Schneidman from The Athletic, whether via release or trade, Gary's departure frees up about $11 million in cap space per OTC. He had the second highest cap number on the team behind Jordan Love. The longest tenured Packer in 2019 first-round pick will now play elsewhere.
Yep. So what I'm seeing is, and obviously different sources will have different numbers, but what I'm seeing is if it's just a straight up release, it'll be about $10.5 million. Yes. And if it is designated a post June 1st cut, it will be over $18 million, yes. But 8.5 of that dead money will then move to next year's cap. So it kind of depends on what they decide to do there. If they want to kick the can down the road and save even more money, or if they just want to get it over with and only save $10 million. Regardless, both of those moves puts the Packers back over the cap, frees up, I think they're about $5 million over the cap now at minimum for 2026 when free agency begins. And that said, I imagine this is not the only move we will see now in the next couple of days from Green Bay ahead of Monday. The Elton Jenkins piece seems like the most obvious one, and that would obviously save you some more money. The Packers don't have a spot for him unless they want him to play center again, but he's got a mega contract number. He turned 30 years old. It just seems unlikely that Elton Jenkins would be back in Green Bay in 2026 as well. So as the Packers, I mean, and this was the conversation we were going to have, Joshy, regardless, and it still applies here with this Rashan Gary news, is Brian Gutekunst got a get-out-of-jail-free card last year by trading for Micah Parsons, right? He gets credit for that, and he deserves credit for that, but the credit kind of stops now, right? He did it. It was a good move. It's a move you would do over and over again. Trade each of the next 2 years' first-round picks and Kenny Clark in exchange for Micah Parsons. It's a move you do every day of the week. However, this team still isn't, at least on paper, at championship level, especially as you lose some outgoing free agents. Particularly, I think Quay Walker is a one that I think we're underrating a little bit. Rasheed Walker's obviously going to get paid here in the offseason, but moving on from Rashan Gary and likely Elton Jenkins would be my guess is the next move we see before Monday. You've got to you've got to do whatever you can to elevate this team to a championship level, and that means being active in free agency. And does that mean one player or two players? Maybe, but it's got to go better than it did a year ago in free agency. You had two free agent signings that were, worth your time and certainly worth some money in cornerback Nate Hobbs and left guard Aaron Banks. And both of those, at least through one season, look like they were a failure in comparison to the free agency the year prior when you signed Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs. That was a huge win and a huge feather in Goody's cap that offseason. This team's window is open. There's no debating that. They've been a 7 seed each of the last 3 years, despite being the youngest team in the league. They've been in competition with some of the best teams in football, especially this past season. And when you have Jordan Love playing at the level he's matured to and is now playing at, and you have one of the best defensive players in all of football in Micah Parsons, you need to do what you need to do to elevate this team to championship level and this roster to championship level. And that starts next week in free agency. You need to make some moves whether that's at offensive line or defensive line or cornerback. You need to shore up your shortcomings, and that's something Goody really needs to focus on now that the Rashan Gary thing is over. The Elton Jenkins thing is likely to come, and free agency commences early next week. It's go time for Brian Gutekunst, simply put.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see how Brian Gutekunst treats this offseason. I do think there is going to be some trying to figure out the cap number to try and get some of your picks back that you'll get back in compensatory picks. I think the Packers are going to take an approach of, we think we had enough last year, and can we add enough in the margins in role players and in the draft to get us there? The big holes I think we have that are really glaring is who's going to play center. Past that, now you're looking for competition, be it another middle inside linebacker. That's probably going to be a guy they might even try and target in free agency. And then it's competition in the cornerback room. But as it pertains to a lot of the starters, we have the left tackle replacement already figured out. You feel good about Josh Jacobs. You're probably going to either in the draft or in free agency add a second running back. And you feel good about the wide receiver room as a whole, even with the departure of Romeo Doubs. So they are in an interesting spot where they can sort of run it back more than we'd expect, even with the amount of departures, and still end up in a really good spot in 2 seasons from now. And I don't want to say they're kicking the can down the road, but that might end up being the reality, because Brian Gutekunst said we feel like we can do whatever we need to in free agency, and we feel like we can also do it without borrowing too much from the future. How they managed to get that done starts with Rashan Gary and then ends up somewhere with Elton Jenkins as well, because that frees up a bunch of money as well.
Yeah, $19.5 million.
But then you're talking about extensions for Tucker Kraft. Devontae Wyatt probably gets himself an extension because you can bring his number down from that cap number. So there's a lot to be figured out, but I don't think they're going to make any real big splashy plays, which may disappoint some people. But I think you're looking at competitive options, but not like no Xavier McKinney's coming to town. I don't even know if there is a Xavier McKinney in free agency.
I don't know if there is either. And that's why
Linderbaum would be the one, but then Biotic getting the contract he did makes you go, well, I mean, Linderbaum might get like $90 million, which I don't think the Packers will be doing. Do they just run Sean Ryan back because he's an affordable price and a guy you can kind of stopgap and figure out that position? Because so far it seems like Jacob Monk hasn't worked at all since he didn't get opportunity last year.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm not expecting a ton of splash plays. I am leaving the hope for something surprising, sort of in the vein of Josh Jacobs being surprising. But I'm not fully committed to anything, because the more I look at the names that lead the list, I don't know how many of them I think would be like instantly better on the Green Bay Packers or demonstrably improve the team that wouldn't be exorbitant prices and money spent in cash.
Yeah, there's a lot of corners out there.
Yes.
And I think that's the position where you look and you go, okay, they could run it back. I just don't think that'd be a smart move.
No, I mean, Goody said as much. I think the two spots he mentioned specifically were cornerback and middle linebacker.
Yeah.
And I believe he might have even called them inside linebackers or middle line, whatever he did, because they might be more of a 3-4 base team, which is interesting in how they're going to figure that out. Even though they said their base is 4-2-5, which is just nickel. They just decided to get fancy with that. So I do think you are going to see additions there, but are they going to be names that we recognize or most fans recognize? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I've heard Greg Newsome mentioned. It seems like he might get a pretty good deal. Eric Stokes has been a name thrown out there because ironically he would be a perfect fit for the Packers, despite them letting him go and a lot of fans having a lot of consternation about some of his performances. But I expect something or a few things to happen just because there's simply too many guys leaving. Like you got to fill the roster at some point. You got to do something there, but I don't think we're going to get the Xavier McKinney shock. Or, I mean, to be fair, both Aaron Banks and Nate Hobbs were shocks in like first day, pretty early announcements, despite them being quite underwhelming signings. Also, I had ChatGPT do a little work for me because I was curious. Do you want to guess how many players since Rashan Gary have entered the league that have had at least one season of double-digit sacks?
That's going to be a big list. So at least 10 sacks. And he's been in the league that he just wrapped up, what, his 6th year? No,
Yes.
7th year.
It's 2019, he said was his first
19,
year, right?
20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. 7th year.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Some more breaking news.
Oh, boy.
Elton Jenkins?
Rashan Gary has now deleted the post from his Instagram account.
What?
What? Okay. So the plot is
I would
thickened.
like to be the first person to welcome Rashan Gary back to Green Bay.
I wonder if he just
All
Is he
six,
trying to repost it?
did he do it too early?
should we welcome all 6'5" and 275 pounds of him back to Green Bay?
Don't make me. I don't want to.
So okay, so just to recap, let's recap. As you're with us
Also,
on Mr.
the number was
Relevant.
83.
Yeah, I was going to guess 70. So I was going to say 10 a year. 83. All right. Alex Strouf, Josh DiMaggio, Will Sommers is producing the show. This is Mr. Relevant. We do this 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday on ESPN Wisconsin, beginning at 12:30 Central, 1:30 Eastern, each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, talking Packers and all things Wisconsin sports. But we're obviously reacting right now to the breaking news that allegedly Rashan Gary has been released by the Packers. He released a picture on his Instagram account that reads this: Green Bay, when I got the call in 2019, it was one of the greatest moments of my life, and it always will be. Yada, yada, yada. Like all chapters in life, this one has come to an end. Yada, yada, yada. On to my next step. Nowhere near done yet. All 6'5", 275. Can't wait. Has now been deleted. He has now deleted the post from his Instagram account, though everybody is saying, okay, he reported it. I mean, he is Rashan Gary. Yep. He's the source here.
Per Rashan Gary.
And now it is gone. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, Here we go. So from Ari Myrov, the Packers are still hoping to trade Rashan Gary before moving on. But his time in Green Bay is coming to an end. They've been trying to find a deal over the last few weeks to no avail. So they will be releasing him. It's just a matter of when. They have not released him yet, thus why Rashan Gary took down the post. Though the chapter, like his post says, is over. But
Yes.
this is the beautiful part of
Did he say release in that?
No, he did not.
So
he said, like
correct.
every
It's coming
chapter,
to
this
an
one has
end.
come to an end. Now, I do want to say this because we live in such an instantaneous society, right? Where you see something, it's reported, it spreads like wildfire, and that's what just happened with Rashan Gary. So I want to recap for you. Rashan Gary posts this on his Instagram page. Reporters see it naturally and say, okay, that means Rashan Gary is being released. Rashan Gary has now, about 15 minutes later, deleted the post, so it is nowhere to be found under the name Rashan Gary. And now being reported first by Ari Myrov at My Sports Update on Twitter, the Packers are still hoping to trade Rashan Gary before officially moving on, but his time in Green Bay is coming to an end. They've been trying to find a deal over the last few weeks to no avail. So Rashan Gary is still a Green Bay Packer, but he won't be by Monday. That's my understanding.
Welcome back, Rashan Gary.
For now. It's important here to sort of parse out what happened. Big credit to Gabe Neitzel, who said, I'm getting sniffs or it smells like to me like the Jair Alexander situation where the Packers were always done with him all offseason, last offseason, but they were trying to trade him. Now, teams and what they're willing to give up for a guy who's going to cost a lot of money that everyone knows wants to be traded is interesting. Now, I don't think anybody would really try and give up assets for Rashan Gary, but they certainly don't want to now that Rashan Gary released the statement saying...
So Rashan Gary tipped their hand, essentially.
Yes.
That's what he was attempting to
So
do.
now we can, there's no way the Packers are ever going to want it back.
Was it
now that
intentional?
He just wants to be a free agent. He wants to choose his destination, I would assume.
It seems like he might be happier than the Packers that he's leaving.
Real quick, this from our buddy Jason Wilde and Tausch weekdays from 9 to noon, says this: now being told that Gary has not been released by the Packers, nor has he been traded. Quote, all options are on the table, end quote, per source. From Jason Wilde. What the hell's going on here?
I mean, it's very clear. He got word. The Packers told him, you're not going to be a Green Bay Packer next year. We are currently trying to pursue trading you and finding you some. If that does not work, you will be released and become a free agent with the ability to choose your destination. Now, did he post because he had somebody make the graphic.
Yep.
He had somebody do
ChatGPT,
it.
I think.
I don't know if he
ChatGPT,
had
I think.
someone
Yeah.
do it.
I haven't evaluated it deeply to know.
You are the AI art expert.
I
Yes.
can tell you this: it wasn't him.
Yes, that I can.
It was
tell
not
you
him that
for,
made the graphic.
For near certain, you do have to leave a little bit in there. But is he basically trying to tank his trade interest so he could then choose his destination, or was this a simple mistake? That's sort of the interesting thing to figure out. It's another entry into the strange things happening with the Green Bay Packers this offseason. Because strangely enough, last year, Jair Alexander was silent all offseason.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't contribute to the mess or the speculation whatsoever. His father, I believe, did on his own accord.
He did. Landis Alexander
Yes.
joined us on KBN.
But
yes.
everyone else sort of stayed quiet in that camp. So that adds an extra layer to this and maybe what's trying to happen. Because I think, to be fair, as much as I don't like what Rashan Gary did on the field, a player taking back their rights and sort of determining their destination, I'm all in favor of.
I agree.
Because you got to give everything for the team, but then they can cut bait with you at the drop of a hat. I don't, and even then, I think this is like Goody's silliest thing he does. Of the writing is on the wall. You save X amount of dollars if you release this guy, and you need cap space to try and add to your team. But we're going to try and convince everyone we want him to stay, and a team's going to give up assets to then have the honor of paying that guy, which everyone would determine is too much money. It's a classic Goody tactic of he's not fooling anyone, but he's pretending he is. And I don't know if he doesn't got enough to do in these days. It seems like a pretty busy time to be a general manager. Sure does. But this charade and this horse and pony act of, well, maybe someone's going to trade for him just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me.
I guess I'm just a little puzzled by the entirety of this situation. But I would assume, especially now, this will just end in a release. So hold on, where are we putting our chips? We think it was a mistake, or we think he's trying to tip their hand?
I think he's trying to tip it.
Yeah,
I agree. Okay, we're all on the same page.
You don't you have to click like 6 buttons to accidentally post something on Instagram.
Yeah, and I mean, there's always the plausible deniability of, well, I have somebody do my social media. What did LaMelo Ball say?
I don't run it.
Yeah, I don't run it.
I'll run it.
You have the plausible deniability to say there was some mixed messaging, you were hacked, whatever. But it seems pretty deliberate because it took over. Everyone jumped on it.
Very quickly.
And all said, nope, pull it back. With just a simple... Has he posted since then saying, sorry, that was a mistake?
I will keep an eye on that. I do not believe so, though.
See, this is like the next thing that he should post is the big cat. Just post, anyone want a free PS5?
Yep.
I was hacked.
Dr. Denver Dan, Gary's announcements are a lot like his effort. Strong start, then absolutely quitting at the end. Can't even quit correctly, he says.
So can he post it again? I don't know if he can.
That's a great question. Or does he have to make a new graphic?
Why don't you put that out to the MIA? Can he post the same exact statement he did?
Just maybe tomorrow.
And say, whoops-a-daisies.
What if his weight changes? Like, what if he loses 5 more pounds?
And it says all 6'5", 272.
He hits the sauna, wears a garbage bag like wrestlers do, cut a couple extra pounds and say, what about this?
Maybe he heard me talking about his weight and he was like, dang, he's got a good point. I should change my weight to advertise for other teams to want to trade for me.
Huh. I'm puzzled by all of this. But I think what we can certainly confirm is Rashan Gary will not be a Packer in 2026. We can certainly confirm that without a doubt.
So also, now do we get to reparse the Instagram post of the Packers sweaty sweatshirt laying on the ground halfway across the finish line? That must have meant he's done with the Packers, correct? And it wasn't, I'm grinding to stay a Packer. It was, I'm laying down like in performative.
I'm putting down my sword.
Yeah, like in professional wrestling, when a wrestler retires
it's
to bring
like Rudy.
wrestling back, they put down like their gear in the middle of the ring.
No, it's like Rudy, where they're all putting their jerseys on the
Why
table.
don't we reference one of the most popular sports movie of the past 100 years instead of wrestlers laying down their headgear?
Can I
Oh, you weren't even talking WWE?
No, I was.
Oh, jeez.
No, I was. Can I make a
I only
confession?
said that because Josh didn't know.
Can I make a confession?
No.
You've never seen Rudy.
I've never seen Rudy.
You're kind of like Rudy.
Underdog story?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks.
Rudy, what we found out to be a fraudulent story, and he wasn't actually well liked by his teammates.
I've actually met a descendant of the real Rudy.
I guess now it's our job to figure out where the comparisons start and end.
Tony,
for your sake.
We're done. Tonio says this, and I think this is what some Packers fans are feeling right now as we approach free agency next week. He says, no first-round pick. Parsons has one ACL currently. Well, I think the other one was reconstructed. No first-round pick.
He's got two.
Parsons, he is two. But he's being dramatic. Let's let him do it.
Stronger than ever.
No first-round pick. Parsons has one ACL, and Gary is gone. Lucas Van Ness is your number one edge rusher with crying emojis afterwards. And I guess I hear you for the beginning of the season at least. Rather, Micah Parsons will be available at some point. But to start the season, yeah, I guess in theory, Lucas Van Ness and Baron Sorrell and Colin Oliver are kind of your edge rushers right now. Now, I would just say I wouldn't be shocked if this is something they try to get a depth piece in free agency for, like a Kingsley Enagbare, bring him back, or somebody at that level. Or is it something they use pick 52 on? Do they go for defensive line right out the gate in the NFL draft and hope they can add an instant contributor in the second round? That was really the only round where they saw an instant contributor in 2025. Anthony Belton, the what ended up being the right guard, was drafted in the second round. He was really the only rookie that made consistent contributions throughout the course of the 2025 season. So is that something they could do in the draft and add another depth piece that they hope can contribute, especially when Micah Parsons is out? I think that's on the table as well.
I'm not going to get the defeatism of that chatter. I don't know for the life of me, and I could be wrong on this, but an NFL team who loses a top 10 player in all the NFL, and then that position group, everyone's like, oh, everything's going well.
Josh, got news.
Josh.
From Rob Demovsky.
Josh.
Per source, Gary has not been told he will be released or traded. In fact, his IG account was hacked. Per the source.
You've got to be kidding me!
It was a hack!
I called it. PS5.
was hacked!
Put
Post
the poll
the
out.
PS5.
Pull out the poll. Was Rashan Gary actually hacked, or was that something he did? Because if it is, so here's his plausible case. In the event he was actually hacked, an AI image
Yeah, that's true.
that was put out that way could be created by somebody else.
And I must add,
But athletes are also lazy, so they would totally have someone do an AI image.
but hold on. Can I add one more thing?
Uh-oh.
Do we think the at 6'5", 275, was that a joke at his expense, or was that just something douchey an athlete would say?
I think it could be either, because remember his own words?
This is unbelievable.
Remember his own words at the end of the season? I've been playing great.
That's true.
Well, I don't need to change anything that I'm doing. I think I've been great. So a guy like that to say, I'm 6'5", 275, I'm a beast, wouldn't be out of character for Rashan Gary.
So good.
That is unbelievable.
I think it was him, because why would he sign his name Rashan Bain Gary? Like, no one would
because
just.
That's what he calls himself.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know if any hacker would just do that though. Insert the middle name. I think
dude.
it would just be.
I don't believe he was hacked.
Juan says no.
Put it into. Have we put the poll in the YouTube chat
We
yet?
have a poll.
People?
95% of people so far say he was not actually hacked.
Yeah.
Are voting that he was.
I voted no as well. I was
Okay.
part of that 95%.
You weren't supposed
I mean,
to.
we've seen we are far too versed in the internet at this point to believe the hackings, and maybe Rashan Gary has fallen victim to the one in odd time that happens, but it sure doesn't seem like it.
This is ridiculous.
In the power ranking of athletes hacked, where would Rashan Gary, early announcing his departure from the Green Bay Packers, rank?
Oh, it's not at the top, but it's up there. I mean, this is ridiculously funny. So now we have. I would like to recap again for the record, just for those of you just joining us on Mr. Relevant.
Bullet point by bullet point. Please.
Okay, let's start with Joshy saying to me, I could tell you're getting frustrated because they haven't released Rashan Gary or Elton Jenkins yet. 90 seconds later, it comes out that Rashan Gary has made the Instagram post saying, thanks to Green Bay, but goodbye. Reporters run with it. It's everywhere. Schefter, Rappaport, Wilde, Demovsky, everybody's got it out that Rashan Gary's time in Green Bay is over and he has been released. Then, about 10 minutes later, Rashan Gary deletes the Instagram post. It's gone. The Instagram post is gone. And then reporters start saying, actually, he hasn't been released yet. The Packers are looking to trade him, but have not been able to find a dance partner for a trade. He is still on the roster. And now, as we kind of await, and we just assume he will be released at some point prior to Monday when the legal tampering period begins in NFL free agency, and obviously ahead of Wednesday, 5 days from today when the new league year begins, he will not be on the roster. He will be released by that point. But they're still looking. Maybe they can get a trade partner, maybe acquire a pick for him. And now it has been reported by Rob Demovsky that Rashan Gary's Instagram account has allegedly been hacked, and that is why the post was made. That's what we've got. That's our timeline of events the last 45 or so minutes. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. This is all-time Packers windmill drama. And look, it's ridiculous. It's a joke, but it's very amusing.
So the more I look at this post, the more it seems almost like unpassable AI. There's a seam in the image running right down his right shoulder through his right hand. He has 2 right feet and 2 left feet. They're like ghost images of it.
Okay.
So now we have to parse out, was he actually hacked and someone created an AI image, or did he purposely put out a crappy image to give himself plausible deniability of said hack?
This is like
because it doesn't take too deep a thinking to think it would be fun. It would be good to post this because I could then basically communicate to all 31 teams across the NFL. The Packers are going to get rid of me if they don't find a trade partner.
real quick on the YouTube chat, ESPN Milwaukee, ESPN Madison. Wrong answers only. Who hacked Rashan Gary? I would like you to provide those as I respond to Josh.
Josh might be on there.
Josh might be on the list. Wrong answers only. It might be me. Wrong answers only. Who hacked Rashan Gary? Hit me with those in the YouTube chat.
I want the Green Bay Packers to get the most
now,
from us possible.
I'll tell you what this is reminiscent of for me, okay? So sometimes in our studio computer, which I have right here, which are sitting in front of me, I log into my Twitter account. And sometimes I forget to log out if I'm hosting a show. And Homer does a great job from 5 to 6 on ESPN Milwaukee of promoting his video stream on YouTube, right? So today, Gary Ellerson is on. So he would tweet something like, Gary Ellerson is excellent, not realizing, because he's 70 years old, that he's still logged into my account. Now, it's not that I don't want to promote Homer's show. I love Homer. I love the show Homer does. I love being his teammate. But it feels a little bit insincere coming from me when it's actually Homer saying that, despite it saying that it came from Alex Strouf. It's happened a few times. It's almost like somebody said, hey, Rashan, you're going to get released, but not yet. And he told somebody that runs his Instagram account, and they posted it and then realized they just did it prematurely, and they've kind of ruined his trade market now. That's what it feels like to me. So they just blamed it on a hack. So it's kind of like Homer promoting a show on my Twitter. It's like kind of accidental, but not fully accidental. You know?
You lost me
That was
in that
really
extremely
stupid.
extremely personal, long, convoluted comparison there, which I think we could have just kept to what was actually happening. If you want me to be straight up with you.
I apologize.
You got excited about that.
He posted an Instagram story training 3 hours ago. You're telling me he's gotten hacked in the last 3 hours?
I mean, a hacking takes a couple seconds.
He didn't get hacked, Josh.
I cannot confidently say either way. I do think it is responsible of us to supply or provide plausible deniability. Does it benefit Rashan Gary in real ways for him to be hacked? Yes. So that is why it's worth casting doubt on whether or not he was actually hacked. Because I believe the Packers communicated that because they're trying to preserve their trade asset. But like, where did Ari get his update on if they're unable to find a trade? Like, when you start tying the pieces together, instead of Rashan Gary becoming a Tennessee Titan, maybe he can find himself in San Francisco or with the Rams, with a contender, with a team he believes is going to not only give him the best contract extension, but be a competitive team that's going to be in and around the playoffs. All that seems to coincide nicely and benefiting Rashan Gary versus just simply I got I got innocently hacked.
So good, man.
But the interesting thing here is, did he purposely do a crappy AI image? So when people say you didn't get hacked, he says, look at it. It was done by AI. I had nothing to do with this image.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it becomes like a multi-level.
There's another level to this, too. So Rashan Gary does not have a traditional agent. He founded his own sports agency called Rashan Gary Sports.
How did he think of that name?
Brilliant one.
Why didn't he just use Bane?
Bane Sport. Yeah, that'd be
Sounds
better.
so much
That's so
cooler.
much cooler. That's so much cooler. Rashan Gary Sports. So his agent is a guy by the name of Ian Clark. I believe Rashan Gary is his only client in the NFLPA. So this situation is even more convoluted because it's not like, and this is no disrespect to Rashan Gary's business efforts and ventures in attempting to establish a sports agency. I would imagine that will explode once his time in the NFL is over. But it's not like you can blame this on, CAA or Athletes First or one of the big time agencies. If it's on your agent, well, they're blaming it on a hack, which is hilarious. But if I don't even know where the story goes. He can't throw his agency under the bus because he's the only client.
It does open up the perfect clearance for him to fake a hack.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
There's no one to answer to besides Rashan Gary to his own sports agency and agent. If there were going to be some sort of premeditated operation, let's call it like this, multi-level scheme and thought-out process, it would have to be a guy whose agent is only representing one guy.
This has been one of my favorite shows we've ever done.
We barely got to talk about the anime convention.
Or the Dickie V sleep paralysis video.
Maybe we'll get to that. I'm blown away by all of this. Blown away. This is one of the coolest stories ever. So there's your timeline. It goes from Rashan Gary's been released to actually Rashan Gary's Instagram was hacked and he's still a Packer. All right. I want to get to your wrong answers only. Who hacked Rashan Gary?
Is this a potential lesson to Brian Gutekunst to stop playing these games and just be like all other 31 franchises and release players who know they're going to be released?
Yeah.
Because it sure seems like he communicates with them ahead of time about that.
Wrong answers only. Who hacked Rashan Gary on Instagram? Is 94% of you say Rashan Gary was not actually hacked on Instagram, according to our poll. Over 50 votes in there on YouTube at ESPN Milwaukee.
As I've been making the case for him not actually being hacked, I feel increasingly more foolish as I'm trying to give him plausible deniability.
Yeah.
It's like withering away with every sentence I speak about it.
Collector's Rain chimes in. It says he wasn't hacked. It got deleted because he was no longer 275. Correct.
Find a new slant. I already said that.
Nowhere Fast says Joshy did it.
No, I want the Packers to get a 6th-round pick for him.
Dr. Denver Dan says Enegbare is who hacked him. Tonio says Gary's password was probably Packers1234. It's well done. What else we got in here? Tonio says it was Jeff Halfley who hacked Gary's account to get him in Miami.
Bold
Not bad.
strategy.
I do love this from Bill Huber, and Rashan Gary's IG was hacked, according to a source. Well, who else would the source be?
Has to be Rashan, right?
Yeah, it's not like he has an agent.
So good. So good. So official prediction, and then we will skip ahead to what we missed. When is Rashan Gary officially no longer a member of the Packers?
I hope it's like Sunday.
Oh, I hope it's in like 40 minutes. That's way funnier.
Right, because what are we doing here? Everyone knows how much money you save. Everyone knows the obvious advantages. Like, what are the Packers trying to hold on to here? Do we think there were serious offers that they were back channeling?
No,
No, of course not.
but maybe actually this helps the Packers because maybe there's a team out there that says, you know what, he does deserve to be the 15th highest paid edge rusher in football. We'll pay for that. We'll give you a 5th round pick, and then you get something rather than nothing.
Do you think someone saw, wow, he's 6'5", 275? Let's give him a deal.
Yeah, probably. So we'll see on this, but as Schefter put, Packers edge rusher Rashan Gary has not been released at this time. No definitive action has been taken. All options still remain on the table, including a potential trade. So I don't expect him to get traded. I expect him to get released. I would imagine with this saga now that drags it out until, I think Josh's timeline is probably right. I would say like Sunday morning, which gives it about 48 hours to breathe. But it's got to be done before Monday, I would guess.
No,
it definitely has to be done by Wednesday.
No. The Packers are cap compliant.
Oh, they are, I guess, with the restructure of Xavier McKinney.
Yes. So we can carry this out for as long as we possibly can.
Come on. This can't be a Jair situation. You can't wait all summer.
Who says June 1st? June 1st, you clear up $18 million.
I think the Packers' best move would do it right now. Make him repost it.
Do you think?
There's no way he has a second graphic ready already.
But then you let him win.
Yeah, but
he gets what he wants.
But as I read the Ari Myrov report 20 minutes ago, there's been nobody interested in Rashan Gary because he's so expensive.
Yeah, of course.
I'm kind of jealous of Rashan Gary because he's going to get a second chance at this Instagram post. Like he has all the criticism now. I'm really interested to see what the second one is going to look like.
It better be good.
Like he tested the waters, apparently got hacked, and now he gets the chance to redo it, which, knowing Instagram and Instagram
Have
posting
we seen
social
Jason
media.
Wilder's tweet?
The one who said who has this kind of time?
Yes. Did you read that?
I didn't read it on the air. No, go ahead.
Sorry, I missed the if. If Rashan Gary did get hacked. I thought he was saying that I thought he was saying Rashan Gary did indeed get hacked.
I would like to see. So Instagram does this thing. This is a nice part about my job because I deal a lot with social media in my role. We have, in fact, had an occurrence like this the other night, me and Will. So Instagram will tell you anytime somebody logs into your account, if you're already logged in, and it will tell you their location. So it'll say, somebody logged into this account in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Would you like to log them out? Would you like them to refrain from using your account? We had an occurrence of this the other night where I saw that somebody in another city was logging into one of our accounts, and I logged them out, and it turned out it was somebody that works here. I didn't recognize the city. And if this happened to Rashan Gary, he would know at least the city in which this occurred in, because it would give him a login notification. So if he was truly hacked, I'd like to see that proof.
Yeah, but with like VPNs and stuff, you could just...
Well, right, but it would at least tell you that there was a login that happened, that it occurred.
Here's my thing. If I'm hacking Rashan Gary, like, that's not one of the first things I'm doing, probably. Like, if I'm on his account, I'm following myself first off. Maybe giving myself a shout-out with all the follow... Like, I'm not posting a heartfelt goodbye message like Jason Wilde said with all the details and everything, but we should put that message through an AI tracker.
Oh, I'm sure it would be, because, I mean, we see every message coming from athletes, every apology. Who recently it was a radio host who apologized with very obvious AI apology. That's just sort of how things are done now, because they can hit the right tone, or people imagine you can. So I think it will come back just dead nuts. Yeah, absolutely AI. The interesting part of all of this is what Rashan Gary could be trying to leverage here is, instead of being one of the stragglers of free agency, one of the late adds to a team, he wants to be the guy who's out in the market when all the money's flowing. Because we see tons and tons and tons of millions of dollars get spent right as free agency opens, and it would benefit him to, I don't know, an untold degree, to be there when all the money's around, instead of people sort of tacking his contract onto the end. So if the Packers carry this out to the June 1st date that they do have, or near it, teams won't have the money to contribute.
Yeah, so that's ultimately what I think will happen here. Is this will probably drag out longer than we want, with them now being cap compliant. Now I'm curious how that affects free agency. Because I wouldn't be shocked if Gary and Jenkins are both under contract for a while. You don't save anything for a June 1st because it's the last year of Jenkins' deal. You don't lose anything by hanging on to him till June 1st. So they could move on from him as soon as today. But the Gary piece is, I could see this dragging out Jair Alexander style just because he's trying to force their hand today. And that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating, despite claiming that he was hacked and nobody believes him.
Getting big dogged.
Unbelievable.
Trying to big dog the Green Bay Packers.
Unbelievable. It's so funny.
Do we have to go to sort of feeling bad that he never produced the way to now he's an arch rival because he's trying to affect the Packers' compensation or trying to negotiate his own way there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Do we believe the Packers would have gotten any offers for that? I have a hard time believing that.
I do too. I mean, and if they did, but again, at that salary number, no way. Who's paying that for a guy that can't produce and gives up on plays?
Right.
And has weak password security.
The story
and weak password security. Great point by Will. Weak password security.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be the second, third, or fourth wave of free agency. He wants, when the dollars are flowing, he wants to be a part of it. And that's the most clear. That's probably the best case we have for this, because the Packers, and this is one of my least favorite things about Brian Gutekunst, is the hanging on to people and trying to get value out of something everyone, like the Jair thing was never going to end in a trade.
Right.
Of course it wasn't.
Same with this, though.
Right. And that's the thing where, I guess you can just release him. The June 1st designation does add a layer to it because the Packers do end up saving an extra $7-ish million on that. And $7 million towards the cap is not insignificant. That's fairly good money. You still would save 11 if you did it today. It's just why and how this all comes together makes it. Sorry, I got distracted by an anime person. It just makes it.
Anime.
I said anime.
You said anime.
Oh. Maybe I was just speaking too
That's
fast.
how distracted he was.
Yeah.
His brain got hacked.
Wow.
I mean, you just don't see tails that often.
No, you don't. No, you do not.
I don't see tails a lot in my day-to-day.
You don't have a dog?
I see it on my dog. I don't see it on humans.
All right.
If your child came out with a tail, would you have it removed?
Probably.
Like a little nub?
Well, is that just a long tailbone?
I don't think that would be it, but I guess I've
Have humans been born with tails before?
Of course.
Why are you acting like I'm an idiot for asking that question?
Because.
You are.
Yeah.
Will, you did not know that.
Yeah, I
Do
did.
you know what?
Ask me.
Do you know what babies look like when they're going through?
Oh, yeah.
It's not a whole lot like. It's not a whole lot like a human and what they end up being.
How did we get here?
Just 'cause someone had a tail on.
Oh, okay. Yeah. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, this is Mr. Irrelevant. That's Josh DiMaggio. I'm Alex Strouf. Will Sommers is running the show for us as always. We do our show in downtown Milwaukee at the 3rd Street Market. We're located next to the 3rd Street Market Hall. We can see into the market hall.
These people are triple fisting macaroni and cheese.
I love that.
Jealous.
I love that. I could go for some good mac and cheese.
No, you can't. Not on your diet.
This is right next to the Baird Center, which there's often events, and there's an anime convention this morning. And the way Josh is seated, he can see right into the market hall to my left.
I see what looks to be Peter Pan walking towards me.
The Lost Boy?
Oh yeah, Captain Hook, I think.
I don't know.
All right.
But yeah, it's distracting. The times I've gotten most distracted were the furries, and the second time it has been, I believe, both anime conventions. They throw you off.
Okay, stop. We're gonna end the show right now. I want to give some final
What's
thoughts.
crazier,
on the
wearing a tail or
Whoa.
triple fisting mac and cheese?
What do you mean triple fisting? Like they're
They've
holding
got their
three
own
separate...
individual mac and cheese and then a mac and cheese chair at the center. That's so much mac and cheese.
I think we've lost Josh.
It's 2 people, 3 mac and cheeses.
I think it's safe to say we've lost Josh.
Rashan Gary is hacked.
Will, your final thoughts on the Rashan Gary saga that went down today?
It's about time. Cybersecurity is a real thing. This is just a great reminder to everyone to change your passwords up. Don't use things that are too obvious. Don't use the same passwords across all apps. It's a real thing, and it can affect your life, and it can affect the lives of others. So make sure you're password protected.
2FA.
2FA, yeah, 2-factor authentication for those of you that don't know.
That's good. That's good. Joshy, your final thoughts on the Rashan Gary saga?
I wonder if he was having mac and cheese.
We've lost Josh. Here's my final thoughts.
Oh, here we go. Settle around, kiddies. Grandpa's got to tell you a story.
Breaking news, Rashan Gary was not hacked. This is an attempt to put pressure on the Packers to get to be a free agent as soon as possible and to get the most money when the most money is being spent at the beginning of free agency next Wednesday. It's as simple as that. We're running out of time between now and Monday when the legal tampering period begins, and he wants to be a part of it. And since they are going to drag this out like they did last year with Jair Alexander, it's Jair Alexander Gate 2.0. He's trying to put pressure on no matter what. And to get off scot-free, he blames it on a hacking, which is an interesting play, but it's the play he made. And I don't think we're going to have a resolution by Monday. We might with this move. I don't think it helps their trade market for Rashan Gary. Not that I don't think the trade market was any good in the first place.
Wasn't robust.
Was not robust. Couldn't have been. So this is hilarious. And I'm really glad we got to go through every wave of this together when we started over an hour ago. And this news broke just about an hour ago. And we've gone through every wave of this saga that seems, at least for now, is over. Will there be a resolution today? I doubt it. Will there be a resolution tomorrow or Sunday? Maybe.
I mean, now the Packers have to petty him. They have to not grant him his wishes.
Oh, right. They got to make it harder for him.
Right. And I do think the layer we haven't mentioned yet is it's even better for Rashan Gary if he's able to test free agency before free agency starts. He has a better chance at getting a higher contract when there's less people to bid on. So I do think the timing of this makes sense. Like Tyler Biadasz signed a contract. And a contract pretty lucrative for a guy who is middling to, I mean, he's a decent starter. Rashan Gary is probably in that category or that bucket of player. So him being able to open offers and take deals before that point would greatly benefit him.
Okay. I want to get to Will and what we missed. That's how we wrap up every show. It'll be unrelated to Rashan Gary, and I know he's got a lot of plans for us. But I got a text message on the Cardless text line, 800-990-3776 from the Yard Possum in Lake Mills.
The Yard Possum?
Will, can you put yourself on camera for a moment, please? Are you chewing gum?
I was.
Has nobody ever taught you that if you're going to be speaking into a microphone, you should not chew gum?
See, unlike you, I can pat my belly and rub my head at the same time. I can stop chewing the gum, and then when I have to talk.
Can you do that?
It's not that big of an operation
Stand up,
for me.
make sure you're in the camera view. You know, you have to do it for 10 seconds.
Rub the belly, pat the head.
Rub the belly, pat the head.
Pat the head, rub the belly.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, wow. He's doing it. He did it. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. See, I'm more coordinated than I get credit for.
That was not coordination.
That was the first time you've ever over-delivered in that way for me.
Thank you.
I'm legitimately impressed.
Thank you.
Because I've done the same, and I end up patting both. I've ended up in that situation.
Chris in Milwaukee says, yeah, he's been chewing gum all show. And then Mike chimes in, obviously he's an idiot, referring to Will.
Geez,
I don't think he's referring to me.
The MIA is turning.
MIA is turning. All right, Will, I don't know what you're doing
I think
here.
he's talking about Rashan Gary.
The floor is yours in a rapid fire what we missed this week.
All right, first we got Jake Paul talking about how he could beat up any NFL player for $1 million.
I would put any amount of money that you could put.
DK.
Metcalf? Not a single football
He's a
player
big
could
dude?
beat me in a boxing match.
Myles Garrett.
That is on God.
Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett.
I would throttle Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett. I will bet you why did we choose him? It could be any name, but any football player. Myles Garrett, Puka Nacua, Tom Brady, Gronk. I don't even know.
Don't even try calling out Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold.
No, don't do it, bro.
Doesn't matter.
He will
$1 million. $1 million. You come to the gym, we put on boxing gloves, we see how it goes.
Sorry, I think that's Logan Paul, actually. But, yeah, he said he could throttle Myles
he's the
Garrett.
non-boxer. He's the one who's in WWE.
Yeah, and he's a heel.
Yeah,
He's just being a D-bag. What was your fascination with this?
That's something that you would say.
That is true. Actually,
what is something I would say?
You're the guy.
You're the guy who's the boxing guy. You said you could last 2.5 minutes in a ring with Joe Thomas.
Yeah.
He'd knock your block clean off.
You'd die in the first 15 seconds.
Yeah, you'd be toast.
I think you're underestimating how big a boxing ring is.
You just run?
And how small I am. And how big he is. He would lose me. I'd be like standing underneath him and you'd be looking
I don't
around
think you're
for me.
that fleet of foot.
I don't either.
Joe Thomas's career was spent taking the super athletes and not letting them get past him.
Yeah, but how big are those guys? He wouldn't see me coming.
So your plan is just your diminutive size.
Avoid him.
It's not your
Avoid.
speed or your quickness.
It's my ability to make
We're
myself
lost in the
small.
sauce. The Paul brothers, get rid of them. The society doesn't need them.
I'm banning them from the show going forward.
Banned.
Banned from the show. What else you got?
Okay, that was a little harsh. Joe Mazzulla, when asked about when Jason Tatum, he's the head coach of the Celtics, by the way, when asked if Jason Tatum could return next week, he said, "I might not even be alive by that day. I go to bed questionable. I wake up probable."
He's such a strange individual. It's a great quote. I go to bed questionable. I wake up probable.
Wouldn't you wake up active?
Yeah, I think so.
If you wake up.
But if you're probable, you're active. That's why the
maybe when
NFL got rid of
sleeping,
it.
You're probable.
Yeah. Well, questionable.
Well, but if you're awake.
You're active.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Were you active for a workout
He's
today?
a psycho person.
I always.
No, rest day. Doing hot yoga tomorrow.
There's no really good way to say this, but he's so eccentric. I don't want to delve into like maybe what may cause those. You know what I'm like? Nobody talks like him.
No.
He doesn't exist.
Nobody talks like him.
I've never seen a professional coach who's as successful, mind you, with where he has those Celtics at. Like he was a shoo-in because wasn't there like allegations of cheating with the last coach?
Yes.
And with the staff member, and it was all a person we all really didn't know. And
Inappropriate conduct, yes.
And then he's just a knockout, awesome head coach.
He watches.
And then every time he speaks, he says something that you go, huh?
You're correct.
Have you seen the movie The Town? He like watches it once a week.
I have
The
heard
movie-
that.
yeah.
I've heard that.
Yeah, it's just
And he quotes it all the time.
he's truly, and if he has a long career, he's going to be like a Yogi Berra, where they're providing quotes consistently, where we're like, what?
So in 100 years, they're going to look back and be like, Joe Mazzulla said that.
Yeah.
He definitely leads the NBA head coaches in
I think he
saying
leads
things for the first time.
All of sports.
Yeah, probably.
There's nobody. Dan Campbell had that throne for a while.
Oh, I'll give you one. You're going to hate it, but you're going to think I'm right. Aaron Rodgers.
Well, yeah, but Aaron Rodgers isn't. Joe Mazzulla was asked about the status of an injured player and ended up talking about if he goes to bed and wakes up. Aaron Rodgers is talking about like ayahuasca. It's not really related to the
that's true.
subject. He's
That's
just
true.
kind of saying stuff.
Joe
That's
Mazzulla is
true.
also the same guy where there's supposed to be a media basketball game, and he made the media play the
Yes.
coaches.
Oh,
and
didn't
they
he
just
smoke
beat
him?
the crap
Yeah,
out of
didn't
him.
he smoke him? I did remember that
Yeah.
before the season. Yeah.
I got one more thing. It's
Oh,
just,
boy.
we were talking about March Madness. This is what it would sound like if Dick Vitale was your sleep paralysis demon.
It's getting loud in here, baby. Turn off the alarm. You sleep naked? Are you serious? Looks like you went to bed a real diaper dandy. This is a primetime nightmare, baby.
Is that
Just wanted to
someone on
end with
TikTok?
that. Yeah, it's been a great video. I've seen going around. That guy does.
Have you guys ever suffered from sleep paralysis?
No.
I heard a story about Brady Kachuk who just had it in the Olympic Village, though, and it sounds terrifying.
I have had that before, and it's usually after long nights, lack of sleep, where you wake up and your eyes pop open, but your body ain't moving, and it's some of the most terrifying sensations you could ever envision. I've never had the demon that people talk about. I have thought there's people in the room, and maybe that's what the demon is. But it was a thing that happened in my 20s rather frequently.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you'll wake up and your adrenaline's pumping.
I
and
hate that.
You're, like, wired.
No, I don't really dream much.
Sleep paralysis has nothing to do with dreaming.
No, I know, but I go to bed and then I wake up and that's it.
It's
I can
like
tell.
It's like being in an in-between state between sleep and awake.
And there's demons?
And you can see the room, but there is like your vision's not fully there. It's an interesting phenomenon. I don't like it. I'm glad it stopped happening.
I'm also glad for you. I think you'd be a lot more messed up of an individual if it continued. All right, that's going to do it for us today. What a show. What a saga. This was very fun for us, and we went 20 minutes
Here's
longer
what
than
we
we
need to
typically
do.
do. Oh, God.
And MIA audience out there, plug your ears. We need to fashion like things throughout the weekend where we can say we got hacked and just do tons of AI stuff. Like you're taking a job as the strength and conditioning coach at Bemidji State.
That's a great idea.
I don't know what for me there could be out there.
Like
but
for me, it'd be I lost my six-pack.
We've got to every day this weekend, and this needs to be a goal of ours. We each need to have something go out on our social media that could imply we were hacked, and then just never address it. and then delete it.
Let it stay up for how long?
An hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I love that idea. That's really good. It's really good. The strength coach idea is genius. I'm going to steal that. All right, that does it for us today. Thanks for hanging out with us as we reacted to the Rashan Gary drama. If you're with us on ESPN Wisconsin, Kyle Preston-Nortman starts in less than 10 minutes with Ben Bruss, Kyle Wallace, and Brad Nortman. More reaction to whatever the hell went on today, as we will talk about that. This has been really fun. We're back with you Monday at 12:30 Central, 1:30 Eastern, ESPN Milwaukee, ESPN Madison on YouTube. And, of course, if you ever miss any of our shows, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the ESPN Wisconsin app, which is customizable. You can drag our show right to the top so you never miss one in your podcast feed. Thanks for hanging out with us. Have a great weekend. Make decent decisions. We will talk to you on Monday. Peace.